Okay, we want to start with 3 onions. Okay, so once you've finished chopping the onions, just get them into a frying pan with a little bit of oil. It's like a cooking program. Brilliant. So while you're doing that, we can now get on to prepare the pastry. Okay, so now for the flour. We need 6 ounces of flour, and you can sieve it if you want, but I never sieve it. So I want 3 ounces of plain flour, and I think it's better to mix the flour, so here we go, 3 ounces, and then I've got wholemeal flour and 3 ounces of that. Six ounces in total. And butter straight out of the fridge, and I want 4 or 4.5 ounces of butter. Okay, so you want like a crumb, and if you don't have a blender, you can mix this up in your fingers, but make sure you just use your fingertips so you can rub it in that way. So that's the alternative way of doing it. I'll do a little bit more here just to roughen it up a little. And you really don't want to handle this a lot. You'll see how much I'm doing, and then it'll start to stick together a little. So just a little squeeze, and it's starting to come together a little more. And I want no more than 3 tablespoons of whole milk. 1, 2, 3. So that's, and then I've kind of started doing it this way, which is just to mix it up with a knife, squash it a wee bit. And that's about it really. As soon as it comes together, you want to get it together, put it in a little blob. You can cover it in cellophane if you want, and you need to rest it for about 20 minutes. I don't always, I sometimes just go straight to it, but that's basically, that's the consistency that you want. Okay, now I'm using a 10-inch pie dish, 10-inch diameter, and you just need to give it a little rubbing up with butter. Once you've done the pastry, so that's there. And then I want my rolling pin, and I'm using the plain flour, and this has had a rest for a bit. It's going to be round, it might crack at the edges, and this bit is just practice really. I quite like the ordinary rolling, just a solid rolling pin like this. You can get them with handles on. It's personal preference really. Just work it very gently. There we go. Measure the size against the dish, that's not too bad. Oh, is it going to stick? Oh. I think it'll be okay. So, then that's it ready. Check that there's not a lot of flour in the back. If there is, brush it off, you don't need a lot of flour. And then with your dish, just very gently roll it out and tuck the corners down. Now, the pastry that I use for this recipe will do a much bigger dish, so but I've started making the pies this smaller size. It just means you've got a little bit of pastry left over, but I think that's easier because you can fit more in the tin. Now you can just break it off at the top. You can use a knife, but I like little bits to be sticking over. I think it kind of looks rustic. There we go. And then just press them into the bottom there. A little bit folded over the edge here. Oh. Okay, so that's what it looks like, and there's a wee bit of pastry folded over the top, and that makes sure it doesn't collapse. With the pastry that you've got left over, you can throw it out, or if you've got one of these little guys, again, just butter it up, roll out a bit of pastry, mark the base, cut a couple of little bits out, usually 4 little bits, triangles. This is a bit of a fiddle. And then we'll put that in there. Go on, son, get in there. There you go. And if there's enough butter in it, which there is, the cutty bits you can just squash. And what I'll do with this is just a little pie, really. Little pie dish. There's a broke a bit at the bottom, just pushed it in. So there you go, and I can fill that with the same filling, and I can get a mini quiche. Moving on, you'll want to grate some cheese. If you're not blind baking it, you don't really need to. If you grate some cheese, I'm using mull of Kintyre because it's nicely flavoured. You want to get a good bit of cheese in the bottom. Now if you squash the cheese down, just use your fingers, when the cheese melts it will seal against the pastry, and so you won't get soggy pastry. If you think you're going to get soggy pastry, you have to blind bake it. You basically use these little ceramic beads, and before you put any of the ingredients in, you just spread the beads out, bake the pastry, give it half an hour in the oven, then bring it out. But as I say, we don't need to do that. Just filling in any little gaps in the base to make sure when I put the filling in, the custard as it's called, that's the creme fraiche and the eggs whisked up, it won't sog through. And this is about 8 ounces of cheese. It's quite a lot of cheese. If you want less cheese in it, you probably would need to blind bake it, but this is Grace's recipe. Which I really like and have made my own. Okay, so that would be what the base looks like. And then the next thing we do is put in the onions. So onions nicely browned, and that goes in there. Now, as this has been happening, I've been steaming some broccoli, and let me just show you what happens next. Okay, so now we add the broccoli. It's been steamed, so it's pretty well cooked. I've got a handful there. I don't usually measure it. 8 or 9 big florets, and you can chop it up any way you want. Recently I've been taking to chopping it really finely, but it's a matter of taste. Small bits work really well, especially the stalks. Now, I need some from a little pie. Perfect. And then some for the big pie. Just goes on top. So creme fraiche in, and we're going to whisk it up really. So nice and light, at least a couple of minutes on high, and yeah, pat that down. A little bit of filling there, and then the rest on here. You could probably use an extra egg, but it just depends. And then you want to get that straight into an oven. So that's going right in now. This is what it's looking like after 35 minutes. It could do with a little longer. I've got some of the cheese left over, which I'm just going to melt on the top. We'll give it another 5 minutes or so. Yeah, pastry looks good, nearly there. The little pie looks fantastic. See, the pastry's nearly done. Okay, so this is the finished article. Still warm to the touch. 2 little pies. I put an extra layer of pastry around the top there rather than over the top, because I like when it does that. But that's it. That's about 40 to 45 minutes, but you really should look at it yourself and make your own mind up. So that's ready to eat. Yum yum.